Help support this
free podcast.
Go to indieyourhead.com/tipjar.
Two United States of America presidential candidates walk into a bar. One of the United States presidential candidates goes straight away up to the bar and says, "Hello, can I have a pint of water, please?" The barman says, "Certainly, sir. Do you want fizzy water, or do you want straight water, or rather still water, I believe they call it, or do you want coloured water, or do you want foreign imported water, or do you want spring water that's been infused with lilac, or do you want, I don't know, do you want 7-Up or Sprite, do you want, I don't know, what do you want?" What's the question, I suppose, that's on everybody's lips here? Well, mine anyway, as the fella who's being charged with serving you. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I don't often have two United States presidential candidates in my establishment at one time. In fact, I don't often have even just one. Why are you both here, incidentally? And the presidential candidate says, "Well, I can't speak for my colleague, my would-be, what do you call him? He's not a colleague because I don't work with him. I'm working against him. I suppose he was my colleague in the Senate at one point. I don't know. Anyway, I can't speak for him, but I speak for me when I say the narrator can't remember what question you just asked. Don't blame me, though. Wasn't me. My memory's fine. I'm one of the finest presidential memories known to man. I just can't remember what question the narrator had you asked me just now. Oh yes, it was what kind of water I wanted, wasn't it?" He went off on the big rigmarole about the different types of water supposedly available to me. "Do you have all those waters in stock, or are you just trying to impress me? Because I'll have you know, just so you know, I'm not easily impressed by long lists of different types of water. Anyone can come up with that. Anyone can come up with big long lists of water. It's whether they can deliver the water. That's what matters. Can you deliver the water, sir?" And the barman says, "Well, to be perfectly honest, Mr. Presidential Candidate, I'm not the one who's under scrutiny here. I'm not running for any election. I'm just trying to..." And the presidential candidate straight away interrupts and says, "Excuse me, yes you are. You're offering a service to the members of the public in my United States of America, and you're charging people money for it, or proposing to charge people money for it." And the barman says, "Actually, no, you can have a free pint of tap water if you want. I don't know if you can do that in America. The narrator's not sure about this, but we assume it's the same over there. If you ask specifically for tap water, it's free." The barman says, "Why would you want tap water? Why would you want to drink tap water when there's all these fine waters available to us, when we have the Atlantic Ocean on one side, the Pacific Ocean on the other, the Mexican Ocean down underneath, we've got 5 Great Lakes up in the northeast, we've got the Sahara Desert, presumably, because if you run raw water through sand, it cleans it out, doesn't it? So presumably that makes our water even greater. Why would I want to drink tap water when I have all these Great Lakes to drink from?" And the barman says, "Well, you know, for a start, sir, that you're not supposed to drink seawater because it's full of salt, which makes you thirsty. And for another thing, I think you'll find many of those lakes and water sources that you mentioned inland are what end up in your tap." And the presidential candidate says, "I never said anything about having a tap. How dare you, sir? I did not say..." "You are misquoting me. You're twisting my words. Our great American language is being twisted by people like you. People like you are not the people on whom our great nation was built. Our nation was built by our forefathers. We had 4 of them. There was President Lincoln. There was the fella on the dollar signs. There was who else was there? I can never remember. It was Michael. What's his face? place one of them a name in De Valera. No, that's Ireland. Whatever, anyway. The forefathers, the four horsemen of the Americopolis. Is that what you call them? Probably not, no. That would probably be considered controversial and possibly a bit rude. But no, you get the general idea anyway. Where is this story going, incidentally? And the barman and the presidential candidate look up above them and say, who said that? And I say, me, I said that. Me, the narrator, the host of Into Your Head podcast. You two are figments of my imagination, and you're going to die now, because I'm going to finish this segment and say hello and welcome to the show.
Lockjaw, the podcast junkie here, and you are listening to Into Your Head.
Agus má tá tú a géisteacht le iad ceann ag béalach fad ó héireann. Prohibition, that's what they call it. They called it prohibition, and it existed back in the early days of the 20th century in the aforementioned country of America, which we seem to be dwelling on a lot during today's episode for no apparent reason. I don't know, it wasn't intentional. It just happened to be that the word prohibition popped into my mind as something to discuss, and prohibition happens to refer to the this era of prohibition in America, where everything was outlawed. You weren't allowed to do anything, basically. They said everything was prohibited. We're having prohibition now. And children would ask, what are we prohibiting here exactly? And of course, you weren't allowed to teach the children about alcohol, so you just had to say, mind your own business. It's prohibited, so you don't need to know. It's all on a need to know basis, so you don't need to know. In fact, you very much need not to know, according to the people who instilled this prohibitive status on us. Of course, 90 years from now, there'll be a channel in Ireland, available in Ireland, called Sky Atlantic, and they'll show the programmes from a channel available in North America called Home Box Office, and they'll have a thing on that with a fella, an ugly fella who used to be in movies, and he'll be going around taking advantage of the prohibition era, and this will be representative of maybe stuff that happened, or maybe a dramatisation thereof, or a fictionalisation thereof. I don't know, but it'll be very entertaining for half a series or so until you lose the plot, and then you get a bit sick of watching all these old-fashioned people from the early 19 whatever it was. Anyway, we're getting a bit ahead of us here. Anyway, children, what you need to know is you're not going to find out what's being prohibited, and that'll help you avoid getting into trouble, because if you don't know what it is, then how can you do it? As Pink Floyd used to say in the future, you can't have any meat. You can't have any pudding if you don't eat your meat. How can you have any pudding if you don't have any meat? From Pink Floyd's The Wall album in the 1980s, I believe. I don't know how I know this as a frigging teacher in the 1920s America. Maybe I'm some sort of fictional creation in a story, or maybe I don't know. As the narrator, I wondered whether he's a fictional person in the 2012, in the year 2012 in Ireland. Does he think he's real? Because if this teacher fella in the 1920s or whenever it was, if I'm a figment of his imagination, then I see no reason why he can't be a figment of someone else's imagination. Maybe he's a figment of my imagination. Maybe I made him up. So there's no reason why not. He seems to have just popped into my mind here. It's not as if I've ever met him. So anyway, children, as I was saying, is this fella in 2012 who thinks he knows all about some band called Pink Floyd because his big brother listened to them when he was growing up. And he's a bit obsessed with America. He's making a thing called a podcast. It's like one of those things where you stand up in front of a 12-inch spit guard and you say, hello, here is the news for your down in the audio cinema. We're going to have cinema with pictures soon. You know that? No, now we have audio. Have all of you children been to an audio cinematorium yet? We'll go and have a look at one. It's absolutely fantastic. You just sit down in a circle and you listen to a fella from Pathé Radio News read out the news, and then you have an audio cartoon, and then you have a movie. Now a movie is basically a radio play. But they're going to have them with pictures soon. Is this making any sense? Probably not. It's not really helping with my theory that I'm not a that I'm not a figment of someone's imagination in a podcast in 2012. What the fuck is a podcast anyway? Well, it's a thing you put on the internet, like an audio program. And how do I know that? That's the question. That's the question on everyone's lips at the moment. Well, on the lips of all the fictional characters that apparently live inside my head. I'm beginning to think whoever is creating the... Anyway, I'll hand you back to the narrator, because he seems to be the most likely person to have a clue of what's going on here. So anyway, as I was saying, prohibition, that's what they call it. They call it prohibition, and it went on for many years. You're prohibited from doing anything. Anytime you went to do anything, you had to say, is this allowed? And they'd say either yes or no, and they'd say yes all the time, because they didn't want, as I say, they didn't want you to know what was prohibited. So if it got to the point where you came across a can of beer, you wanted to try and drink it, and you weren't sure whether that was what was prohibited, you'd ask, is this prohibited? They'd say, I can't tell you, or else sometimes they'd say no, because they're not allowed to tell you. And then you drink it, and then you'd get arrested. He'd report you to the police straight away. He'd say, you're under arrest. I can't tell you what for. Suffice to say, this is prohibition. You're prohibited from doing. You're being basically. It's like when you go into an auditorium and Queen and Paul Rogers are playing. Let's say it's the year 2005, and you're at the what was then called the Point Theatre in central Dublin, and you sit there in the auditorium, and the speakers come on, and they say, "Hello, we're the speakers. We're basically just." Boxes full of wires. We don't say anything. We basically that's stupid. That's fucking ridiculous. This segment is going down the pipes like a fucking like a lump of shit that's sufficiently dispersed using sufficiently non-cloggy toilet paper. It's flowing down the pipes efficiently, in other words. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Where I come from, that's a good thing. If it doesn't block up the system, that's considered a good thing. So this segment is not blocking up the system. It's just a pile of crap. That's the only problem. We'll deal with that. Don't worry. We'll deal with that. I've done the frigging prohibition thing before. I did it on the Overnightscape Underground. I started a thing with prohibition. Maybe I should just dig that out and put it in here. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should. Has that occurred to you that maybe I shouldn't? Just because something pops into your mind and you go, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should do a segment about beers with children stuffed inside them, and I don't know, tuna being fed to them through a straw. My internet's down. Is there a reason for that? Fucking better be. Fuck you, internet, and the horse you rode in on. Anyway, suffice to say, on with the show.
Do you like reruns? Of course you do. Reruns are the modern day equivalent to new things. Anyway, Into Your Head Radio now has a dedicated reruns feed. Every week, there's a fresh selection of old shows handpicked from throughout Into Your Head Radio's 6-year history. And it's free! To subscribe to the new Reruns feed, just visit intoyourhead.com/archive.
Hello, I'm Dustin Meehan, Into Your Head's original professional voiceover guy, and frankly, the best. I've been on TV, you know. It kinda makes me wonder why I'm paid in cat food.
Once upon a time, there was an anteater by the name of, what will we call him or her, because there's male and female anteaters, you know, just not in this story, there's just one. There's an anteater by the name of AB3100, because anteaters don't give each other names. It's only if they're observed by some wildlife conservatory observation person, they're caught for a few minutes and given a tag with a number on it. So the nearest this anteater had to a name was AB13, whatever I said it was. Anyway, one day this anteater is going around minding his own business in the desert, or wherever anteaters live. Let's say it's the desert. In this universe, this fictional universe in which this story is set, anteaters roam the deserts looking for ants. Doesn't mean they're going to find any. That's why you don't necessarily see a lot of anteaters around now. They disappeared with the dinosaurs. In fact, back in those days, the anteaters were fucking gigantic, and what looked like dinosaurs to us just looked like little specks of dirt on the ground to anteaters, and they would accidentally eat dinosaurs. Luckily, there was plenty of protein and everything they needed in a dinosaur. Unfortunately, they ended up eating all the dinosaurs, and then the few anteaters that were left just started eating ants like they're supposed to. So natural order was restored, except that we didn't have any dinosaurs anymore, and that paved the way for Adam and Eve to get going. Adam and Eve, I tell you, they wasted no time. They grew a garden. They said, it's time to take over the world now. Let's plant some roses and prunes and apples and frigging grass, a bit of grass, not too much, because that looks like it might be a pain in the arse to manage, especially when it grows every week during the frigging summer. Not too much grass, maybe some paving instead. But no, we'll definitely have loads of grass, maybe some vegetables, a few prunes, as I hear those are good for the bladder. If you turn them into liquid, run them through your bladder. I'm not sure exactly how it's done. Maybe you just consume them. But if you put prunes through your bladder, apparently that's a good thing. Do you put them from the far end or the near end? I don't know. Do you put them backwards through your digestive system, or do you start at your mouth like you do with food? I don't know. We'll find out through experimentation and elimination, I'm sure. So anyway, Adam and Eve set to work in their garden, and then they said, we have all these plants and things now, we might as well start growing people. We start growing people, Eve said, and Adam said, I suppose we will. We'll probably need some help from a third party here. And just at that moment, they heard a cough from a cloud overhead, and Eve said, did you hear someone coughing? And Adam said, I did indeed. Whoever he is, we better not breed with him, because he's probably diseased. We're going to have a faulty race. They'll all be, I don't know, they'll all be either hypochondriacs or sick people. So keep well away from that fella. No, we'll just study the plants here and see how they do it. See that wasp there, for example. Incidentally, where the fuck did that wasp come from? I don't remember making any animals. I thought I just made vegetables. Animals, vegetables, and minerals, I suppose, are the basis of a proper whatever, anyway. Suffice to say, the rest is history. The rest is all in the history books, going back as far as, just after the end of the Bible. That's where the history book... The Bible ends at the bit where, the bit where the world ends, I suppose, or the bit where Jesus dies and they talk about how the world's going to end. That's where the Bible ends, and then the history books take over from that. There's very little overlap, because in those those days when you wrote a damn book, you had a bit of diplomacy, you agreed with the other. If you were an academic and you're writing a book of your historic studies or your theological studies or wherever, you had a bit of manners and you consulted with the other people in the other universities and said, let's divvy this up now. I'll take the period from the creation of the world up till biblical times. You take the bit from the end of the biblical times up to the year, let's say 1200, and someone else will take the year 1200 up to the 19th century, and someone else will do the world wars, and someone else will do, we'll get Professor Stephen Hawking to have a look at what happened before the beginning of the biblical period, and between us all, we'll all sort it out. We'll work together. Well, that's all you can hope to do as a race. Work together and figure it all out. Twist and shout, as the man said in the song. He said, "Come on, something. You gotta twist and shout. Twist and shout. Something, 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 something. And work it all out." So that's what they worked it all out. Well, not yet, but they will eventually. We're working on it. Give us a fucking chance. We got a frigging automated robotic cat roaming around on Mars at the moment. I think you have to admit we're making some progress. We're getting there. We'll get there in the end. If you would like to support my ongoing study of the nature of humanity, the universe, Adam and Eve, fictional cats in the Prohibition era, and all these important topics on an ongoing basis 3 times a week, please support the show every time you visit, every time you buy anything on Amazon or any of my other affiliates. Just start by going to my website, intoyourhead.com, click through the appropriate Amazon link for your country, and go on to Amazon and buy stuff. The same if you want prescription glasses shipped to your home anywhere in the world. Just click on my what do you call it? However my affiliate's called, you'll see at the top of the page at intoyourhead.com. There's also a couple of pet supplies affiliates. Every time you buy anything through my links, I get a generous cut. It doesn't cost you anything extra. See, intoyourhead.com, it's all there. Absolutely fucking fantastic. On with the show.
Hello, this is J. Edgar Casey, and whenever I am listening to fine podcasts, I tune into the Into Your Head program because it's very clean.
Did I ever get to the end of that anteater story? Wasn't that meant to be a story? I can't remember. I got distracted. Excuse me for getting distracted by the whole nature of life and the universe and the history of the entire world since the beginning of civilization and all the complications added by the theological issues therein, and trying to weave a sensible web out of the whole lot of it for you. I'm very sorry that I got distracted by my silly little story about an anteater having a stroll in a desert. Anyway, the anteater was having a stroll in a desert looking for ants. Unfortunately, he wasn't one of the more intelligent anteaters. In fact, he was below average. If there had been a test for anteater intelligence in those days, which there may well have been, I don't know, seeing as how he would be already being tagged by some scientists who was studying wild anteaters, there may well have been some tests performed on them, but I don't have access to that data here. Anyway, if there had been a test, it would probably have shown, unless of course the test was faulty, it would have shown or should have shown that he was below average on the anteater intelligence scale. And this particular anteater, in fact, he was sucking up sand as if it was ants and consuming it, and thereby was having a detrimental effect on his digestive system. Frankly, he wasn't long for this world, or that world anyway, that fictional world. He wasn't long for there. He's probably about to die a long, slow, painful death. Luckily, he wasn't real, so it's okay. He's no more real than Bambi's mother in that freaking Disney thing that I've ever seen. I understand Bambi's mother dies or something, and it's very upsetting. People get very upset about these movies. If some fella breaks into the movie theater while you're watching Bambi and shoots everybody, that's considered perfectly acceptable in today's world. But no, if Bambi's mother dies, it's all, how dare you kill Bambi's mother? Who the fuck do you think you are, Mr. Disney, with your non-crema, what did he do to himself? He got himself cryogenically frozen. But Walt Disney is cryogenically frozen. He got himself frozen on his death. So he's hoping that one day he'll wake up in a fantastical world of the future in the year 3642 or something, and we'll be all welcoming him with open arms and open ears, presumably big giant mouse ears, and we'll be saying, "Oh, look, Mr. Disney's back, thank Christ. I only wish we could have done the same for Jim Henson." That's because Mr. Disney, I can tell you, he lived in a fictional world. He might as well be living in that fucking Playboy mansion with your man with the pajamas and his freaking 18-year-old wives. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. You can't just cryogenically freeze yourself out of the world and expect to come back magically in a few millennium from now. Or maybe you can't. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong. It could be. Suffice to say, the anteater, basically he ended up dead as a doornail. Although he probably got more out of life than a doornail would. A doornail would see a lot of stuff going on. A single doornail. Imagine if you had a doornail in my granny's house, for example. My granny's former house, which is hundreds of years old. A doornail in the front door of that house would have observed a lot over a couple of 100 years. People coming and going, people being born, people being dragged out in a hearse, cows coming and going because it was a farm area, different dogs coming and going, all sorts of people. Unfortunately, a doornail is not an animate object. It doesn't have a brain, so it wouldn't have seen very much. So no, when I say that the anteater was as dead as a doornail, that's not to say that the doornail would have been any better off, because at least the anteater got to live a bit during his presumably rather short life. Doornail anyway. You don't need doornails. You don't need many of them. You just need 2 at the top or 2 at the bottom if it's a tall one. Sometimes just 2 if it's just a little knob. I presume a doornail is the nail. Maybe I'm not thinking this true right. I've been assuming that a doornail is one of the nails that you use to hold in the handle onto the door. But those are usually screws. Hold on a minute. There's something smells fishy here. I need to look up what a doornail is. Doornail. I'm beginning to wonder. No, I've been painting the doors recently, and it's all what you call it. It's all screws nowadays. Maybe in the past it was nails, but it's definitely all screws. Oh, here we go. The Free Dictionary by Farlex. Doornail, a large-headed nail. Dead as a doornail, dead beyond any doubt. Here we go. Noun 1, doornail. A nail with a large head, formerly used to decorate doors. There we go. They're not in use anymore. They're being replaced by the screw. So not only was the antelope in question dead as a doornail, doornails are now extinct. So if the anteater had been a doornail, his species would be extinct as well. If he had any children, they'd be all gone. His whole species would be gone and replaced by screws. So it goes to show he's far better off being just dead as a mentally disadvantaged aardvark who ate too much sand, or anteater, whoever I said he was. He's better off being one of them than being permanently dead as a doornail that's now extinct. So there you go. Although I suppose he might have had some antique value. but you can't really account for that. Antique values are not really predictable. Anyway, hello and welcome to the end of the show.
If you would like to comment on any of the issues raised in today's programme, email us at studio@intoyourhead.com. Remember, we value the opinions of you, the humble and ignorant listener.
Sit, Laurie, sit. Good cat.
Intoyourhead.com.